Hi, Pranjal. Thank you for joining in and congrats again on your HEC admit. So if we
Thank you,
could
Arvind.
get started, so if we could get started with sort of your background, if you could just tell us a bit about your experience, your trajectory applying to business school. Let's get started there.
Sure. So I have about 5 years of experience. I was currently working as a brand manager with Flipkart just before I kind of resigned, and now I'm looking forward to being a part of the HSE school in France. So I was always a marketing fanatic. So I did my graduation in economics honors, and then I did my master's in marketing and business management from SC School of Management. After which I kind of started working with different organizations across various industries, taking on various roles under marketing to basically understand the job role better as well as the industry better. And that's how I kind of stepped into Flipkart into the e-commerce role and understood strategy uh, and about how the purchase, everything that happens from the buying to selling, everything under e-commerce. And that kind of gave me a good amount of confidence and also understanding of how strategy works, of how consulting works, not just kind of selling products through marketing and brand management. So yeah, that was my experience. Apart from my full-time job, I used to also kind of have a podcast. I still have a podcast where I used to talk about marketing. I have a website where I again used to kind of discuss a lot of different stuffs and things about marketing and how practically it is being used. And I also helped out a couple of startups with their marketing and branding management. Two of them also got funded. One of them got funded during Shark Tank, and one of them got funded through a VC. So yeah, combined all of this, this was my professional experience before kind of getting an admit and finally moving into HEC.
Okay, great. So let's talk a bit about why MBA, right? So especially you've done a master's before, right? And so what is your motivation to do an MBA now, and why specifically HEC?
So when I did my master's at that time, there were multiple reasons actually. At that time, I did not have much of industry experience. I kind of jumped into taking a master's or kind of getting a master's uh, pretty soon, and I did not realize that when you're kind of going for an MBA, be it from India or be it from abroad, you need to have a good amount of experience to understand the industry better wherever you want to work. And also, I was a graduate with economics. So majority of the jobs that I was getting were more of, let's say, kind of data analytics and everything. That could have kind of not led me into marketing, which was my passion at that time. So I genuinely wanted to kind of make my career into marketing, which I have made, and also kind of being a brand manager with Flipkart, I pay justice to. But while working with Flipkart and also while working with various other organizations or maybe helping out other startups, I kind of started understanding the importance of strategy consulting, specifically how important it is to kind of roll the business around numbers and be a part of not just strategizing a business but also being a part of their execution. And that is something that I did almost daily in 2.5 years that I spent in Flipkart. So I think that kind of piqued my interest in strategy consulting. And also, I've been wanting to move abroad to work in a more diverse environment and also kind of get that exposure, global exposure, to work with different kind of people. So because of these two reasons, that is to pivot my career into strategy consulting as well as get that global exposure, I decided to do again an MBA from HEC Paris. And why HEC? So I have been affiliated to HEC for quite some time, for about 3 years. One of the founders who created the strategystory.com, I became the founding writer for that. And I have been affiliated to the alumni of HEC for more than 3.5 years. So I knew the curriculum, and I also kind of really liked how all the alumni were very close knit together, and also kind of tracking their where they are right now after graduating. uh, on LinkedIn, I was kind of appeased with what HEC has to kind of give. So my main goal, that is to pivot into strategy consulting, that was also kind of showcasing a good outcome through HEC, as well as plan B, if let's say plan A does not work out, plan B, that is, let's say, move back to e-commerce, was also kind of showcasing a good trajectory from all the graduates that have been there in the past couple of years. So both my plans were secured. So that's why I kind of went into HEC, apart from other reasons of good close in the alumni, as well as having a knowing structure of what and who, kind of HEC takes into consideration.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that, Pranjal. So yeah, so you decided you wanted to sort of look at essays. So could you tell us a bit about how you approach the application process, specifically the essays? Right? There's a bunch of I think 6 or 7 essays, which some people find tedious, or maybe overwhelming, right? So, how was your? Let's maybe even start with sort of before you decided to apply. Did you connect with AdCom, or sort of what are the steps that you took, and any specific strategies or tips that you recommend?
So I think after doing my GMAT, HEC was one of the schools that I had applied to, and I was familiar with the kind of questions that were being asked in a lot of these school applications. I think what made HEC really stand out was that I was able to connect as a South Asian. They had a separate connect for all the South Asians who were joining in. Then I was able to connect one on one with the admissions or regional manager for admissions. And then again, I was able to connect just one day before kind of filing my applications, submitting my applications. I was able to connect one on one in person with the regional manager of admissions. So the more I connected, the more I kind of got in clarity that I'm going in the right place, I'm going in the right area. And also, any doubts, any things that I had, the alumni were always there to kind of uh, you know, um, make me understand that how the process happens and what really helped them to get into HEC. So, of course, through LinkedIn, I connected with multiple alumni. I kind of understood their things, and I kind of understood their stories, and how can I kind of incorporate my story into whatever questions that are being asked. So one good part about HEC is that they really want to know you as a person, apart from the academics or any other accomplishments that you had. Also, they wanted to know that why are we doing it. So of course they look for clarity, but they also kind of look for who you are as a person and how can you be a really good addition into their class. So through this kind of mapping of who am I as a person, what I've done in the past, how can I really be a fruitful addition to the coming class, and also how and what have I learned in these last 5 years of my experience, how it has been, everything kind of made it into a story and then was penned down in respective questions of these essays. And of course, there was a huge help from admitStreet as well to kind of refine all those answers, because we have a very limited space to answer all the questions. And having multiple accomplishments, I wanted to kind of write down everything and anything. But of course, focusing on those two, three, and what impact those two, three had, and how can those two, three accomplishments can be really, uplifting your profile. That was very helpful to kind of approach the entire application process.
Great. I wanted to talk a bit about sort of any challenges or roadblocks of, if I may, sort of the GMAT, right? It was sort of on the lower side of the average. So how did you overcome that? What was your sort of way of, um, like you said, the profiles get evaluated sort of holistically, right? So what were your sort of ways to sort of present that holistic profile?
I think definitely being from an Indian background, GMAT or any other standardized test became one of the major hindrance for me to kind of proceed. I think just kind of also answering this question, one of the very good factors that was with me at that time was luck, because I kept on kind of improving my GMAT score, but maybe standardized testing is not for me, and that's why I had just to kind of had 650 score on GMAT, and I also kind of tried giving GRE, but it was not that great. So I understood that maybe standardized testing is not that good of an area for me. But then the rest of the profile kind of really speaks out as a manager, as what kind of experience I had and what kind of personality I have created in these past 5 years, how I've grown as a person, how I've grown as a professional. So these were some things which I really highlighted. And also, there was a good chance in an optional essay which was given to us that if I need to kind of pinpoint something out. So that kind of gave me that platform to really speak about that how I am not a person for standardized testing, but that does not mean that I'm not fit for kind of becoming a part of the upcoming class or even becoming a part of HEC. I think they really liked that candidness. And one good also thing that really worked out was that in my past, both graduation as well as post graduation, I had a good GPA. In post graduation as well, I was in top 10 of my class at that time. So that kind of compensated with a lower GMAT score. Even though 650 is okay for some schools, but specifically coming from an Indian background, it's kind of considered pretty low. But still having good GPA in my past academic uh, courses, as well as showcasing myself that how I have become a good professional, and I've also worked at a good position in one of the very renowned companies in India, kind of really helped me to uh, you know not see the GMAT score but actually see some really positives out there. So I think, yeah, highlighting who you are as a person and how professionally you have grown, and anything else can be done to compensate for anything which is not in your profile. For me, it was GMAT score kind of really helped. Um, because also it was a chance for me that I was taking by kind of applying at almost the last intake for any international. So I think that also really worked out in terms of luck, and of course how I highlighted the positives in my profile, and how can the positives overshadow any negatives that I have.
Yeah, yeah. Could you tell us about your interview experience, the alumni interviews? There's two interviews that happen once you get shortlisted. Any specific, you know, insights or sort of experiences that you can share from there?
So my two interviews actually were taken back to back, and one of the interviews was taken by somebody who graduated in September 23, and the other interview was taken by somebody or an alumni who graduated in September 2017. So both were pretty good and both were pretty different in their aspects. We were asked to kind of make a presentation, and we had to kind of adhere to the strict timeline of putting out presentation and answering questions and everything for 10 minutes. So I chose a topic where I kind of felt that it's very so okay in terms of topic as well. You did not have to be kind of talk about your experience, or just talk about, you can talk about anything and everything which you feel you're passionate about as well. So like I talked about that I have worked across multiple uh, industries in multiple categories, be it in Flipkart or be it outside of Flipkart. Getting an exposure to multiple industries, I also got an exposure to how water is being kind of consumed in every industry, and that's how I made the presentation. So I think they see the passion, they see the clarity of the concept that you're talking about, and see why have you kind of done this. So after the presentation, they were basically normal questions like why MBA again, why I am doing an MBA even though I have a master's, that too in business administration, or uh, why HEC as well. So these were basic questions, but they're also kind of looking for that will I be a good fit into the upcoming class, not, or will I be a good alumni once I graduate from HEC. So these were good. The first interview that I had was very smooth, I would say. It made me feel very confident, and it made me feel really happy that I am going to be a part of that HEC alumni. The second interview, I might say, who was taken by an alumni who graduated in 2017, was a bit more grilling, because there were very small nuances in which the interview was focusing on. But I think the best part was about that you have to kind of maintain your patience and you have to maintain your calm at that time. It could be anything from like a tactic where they really want to kind of go deep inside every question that they're asking, or it could be a tactic to rile a person up and to understand if that patience is there in a business manager or in the upcoming leader or not. So I think that what I felt was being tested. So it was way more grilling. But I think overall, both the interviews were very good. And depending on the feedback that they gave in my entire application, I also managed to secure a scholarship.
Okay, great. And maybe a bit about the scholarships, right? So because there's, so HEC specifically has essays focused on excellence, L'Oreal, etc. scholarships. So if you could tell us a bit about what is it, in hindsight, you feel sort of work and in terms of presenting certain things, or what are tips that you would have for candidates that are looking for scholarships?
So I have actually applied for three scholarships. One was HEC Excellence, Forte, and there were also, I think, multiple scholarships, L'Oreal, and there were other two more scholarships. So I was able to get HEC Excellence and also Forte Fellow Scholarship, which is more focused towards women candidates. And L'Oreal is something which will be announced in the month of January when I join HEC. So hopefully I kind of also get L'Oreal scholarship. What really focused was, so there were different aspects in Forte Fellow because it was more towards that how as a manager or how as a women leader I have basically learned throughout these experiences in my life, and how have I given back to the community. So like I mentioned about the startups that I helped, there were a lot of startups which were women led, and these were basically specifically at the time of COVID, when a lot of startups or small businesses shut down because there were no operations allowed. There were so many entrepreneurs who were kind of worrying about whether their business will be able to kind of get back on the track ever again or not. So I think me taking that initiative for them to get back in the market, as well as kind of doing everything pro bono, and also learning through the experience, and focusing on how not just as a woman I grew up professionally, but also kind of gave back to the community or gave back to the society, really helped to build that Forte Fellow scholarship and me to get that scholarship. As well as HEC Excellence was more focused on how I have grown as a person, not just within the last 5 years, but as a person, maybe starting from, schooling to, let's say, doing a graduation or post graduation, even, let's say, having an international experience, how it kind of helped me define an entire outlook of international experience and then grow as a person and then combining everything. So HEC also looks for an international experience because they want to judge that how good you will be as an addition to the class when you're kind of having daily, discussions or case studies with your international peers. So I think combining everything of every small and every large experience that you had in life and how did it really help to grow you as a person, really helped to combine the entire passage or essay, and then me getting that scholarship.
That's good, great. And especially, I think applying towards one of the later rounds, again, one of the misconceptions is you don't get awarded scholarships and things like that. Right? So this again shows that's not entirely true. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about your experience working with me, right? Working with admitStreet. So if you could share how it was, any specific sort of areas where you felt we were able to help in the process.
So I think I approached admitStreet because I was kind of browsing through LinkedIn and I came across one of the articles about, what maybe INSEAD looks at, or what LBS, or what, let's say, IMD looks at. And there were also a lot of blogs where, the questions were given and the answer, how some person or some admit had actually answered those questions. And that really helped me to also kind of frame my own answers on how can I approach, because I also have like a lot of accomplishments, a lot of stories to give in, but how do I need to focus on just those 2 to 3 stories and really need to kind of put them into a manner which will put out the best value that I have as a person. So through those blogs that I read, I kind of really liked the way of structure, the way of answering, and that's how I kind of approached admitStreet for kind of helping me out. That was also one thing, and second was that like when you are a graduate from HEC, and my target school was also HEC, so somebody who's also graduate from HEC could really help me to understand that what helped him to get into HEC, as well as how you must have helped other candidates as well, and how they have also kind of secured an admit from HEC. So refining the entire, so I already had the storyline, I already had the answers to questions. It's just that the refining part was very necessary and something which I still had to kind of brush up. So in that case, admitStreet really helped me to refine all the answers given the limited word limit. And also there were some questions in which my answers were not kind of, alluding to what was being asked. So kind of giving a correction or rectification on what maybe can be answered instead of what I am thinking. That was also really helpful to kind of put up everything and then, submit my application in the given time limit. And I think one good thing about was also that I submitted my application on 13th of October, which was basically the deadline date, and I submitted at like around 10 o'clock in the night. So I was already riled up because I was working as well as I was focusing on my applications. But I mean, you were there to kind of help me out even till 10 to 10:30 in the night to refine my answers and then finally help me submit the kind of put the submit application button. So I think that was also very good to lessen my anxiety of submitting the entire application.
Great. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out well. So maybe if you could just wrap up, with if you could share, any top advice or tips that you have for candidates that are applying for HEC and going through the process.
I think the first thing would definitely be believing in yourself. When you have kind of decided to do an MBA, of course, there are a lot of accomplishments that you have had. We might not be perceiving them as accomplishments, but I think every small thing could have had accomplishment. There were, like, when I was kind of choosing the right consulting company as well for me to help, there were a lot many examples whom I came through where I came through that they do not have any stories or they do not have any other accomplishments. So they were anxious whether they will be able to compile the application and actually submit it. But then later on in the rounds, they got accepted. So I think one good thing would be to believe in yourself that you have come through this way. So of course, you will be able to definitely go a lot much way if you get the right guidance. And second would be not kind of believing all these myths out there. Like I, being an Indian applicant, was able to get an admit that to about a 650 GMAT even at the last round for internationals. So anything and everything could be possible. It's just that you need to really compile your application. If you have something negatives, you will have much more positives. So always focus on positives and how it can overshadow the negatives, and how always bring out the positives in your overall profile rather than kind of just concentrating over the negatives. So I think that could be very helpful to compile the application, because having that confidence really takes you one step or two steps ahead as compared to other candidates.
Right. Great. Thank you so much, Pranjal, for doing this, and all the best. Have a very good time at HEC, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Thank you, Arvind. Thanks a lot again.